we mean F words,
yes,
stuff like that. We mean curse words.
Yeah,
that's what
slurs.
we mean.
It's a slur.
Well, that's, that has taken on different meanings in the past.
Yeah, no.
We just want to make sure that's clear.
The F-bomb.
No preachers would have wanted to be in the area for this game. Let's just say that. There were times where, they just looked like they were out of place. But I'm going to tell you, that's, I think, we're watching the rivalry. There's little things that we want to critique really, really hard in game. But when you go back and look at it, look at how good the Bigs did, on the perimeter against Matthew Hurt for the most part. He didn't have a good game. Part of that was because he got himself in foul trouble. The other part of that was Carolina's Bigs did a good job of not giving him great looks. But, still, there were a lot of people that were very critical of the defensive end. I thought there were some lapses. I think that's part of what it is with this team. The other thing that I just didn't get was there was a point where Carolina went into this phase where they wanted to double every time Duke came down the floor, and it left them scrambling. I don't get why they went into that, because before that, they had been doing such a great job with man-up defense. Remember, that was pretty much right after they came out of that timeout that Duke called when they led by 12. All of a sudden, they switched things up. What was the point of that? It was working. Your guys were working hard. And then you switch things up, all of a sudden Duke starts to get in a little bit of a rhythm, which part of that is, on Coach K and his staff for making adjustments in the timeout. But the other part is why change what's working?
I'm going to go back to the Bigs because I wasn't done talking about them.
Oh, there we go.
They played really well tonight. They combined for 29 points and 16, 12, 21 rebounds. So bad math on my part. They still have to play tougher, they've got to play faster, and they've got to play smarter. But even with the perimeter shooting that you got from Kerwin Walton and you got from Caleb Love, tonight reinforced, because Duke tried to go big, and Duke out-rebounded Carolina in the first half. When Carolina's committed to, and their bigs are playing with energy and intensity, this is a really good team that can play with most teams in the country, and they can be a problem. So, talk about the defense. I don't want to see Carolina double ever again for the history of the time this program plays. Because until they learn how to effectively double team, I don't get the point. And at first I thought it was just the players. Roy Williams loves coming out of a timeout and trapping and all that. And I get that. But we have an 18-game sample size of it showing you
doesn't work. It's
not working with this team.
Not really. More like a 40, maybe even 50-game sample. It didn't work last year either. And this team still is not.
There were plenty of times where they did a good job forcing a guy to get trapped, and you double him, but you don't double him correctly. He passes out of a double team, and you got to line up in three. And look, we'll sit here and I'll give Duke's players credit for making plays because they made a lot of plays tonight. Because this game, they're going to make plays. But at some point,
every time.
At some point, you got to look at what yourself doing defensively and say, this isn't working. We just need to play straight up man-to-man defense. Because I thought Carolina's man-to-man defense, it wasn't great on the perimeter in terms of guarding the ball. Caleb Love and Kerwin Walton both got beat a couple times. But when they kept Duke in the half court, I thought they were as good as they've been against higher level talent teams that we've seen this season.
Right.
We saw them against Texas really struggle guarding the ball. They were really bad against Iowa. Even Kentucky had moments. Tonight, outside of a few lapses, even though they gave up 87 points and 48 points in the second half, and hell, even 53% shooting from the field, they played a really good, clean defensive game.
Scoring's built into the rivalry. I think that we've seen that the last few years for the most part.
These teams, they play the game the way the game's supposed to be played, with space, with pace, with tempo. They got guys that can make shots, and they're going to make shots. And let's be honest, nobody wants to watch a 60-50 ball game. I want to see 90-80, and it's a really fun game to watch.
Well, if it's this rivalry, then I would watch it.
So
I'd be intrigued. But
I just thought Carolina And look, they left a lot of plays that you still got to make. You miss 9 foul shots. You turn the ball over 16 times. But on the flip side, you negate that by you score 21 points off of 9 Duke turnovers in the first half. That's pretty efficient if you ask me. You forced 15 turnovers for the game. You out-rebounded Duke 38-31, so you took care of the backboards after being out-rebounded in the first half. This was the most complete game we've seen from the Tar Heels this season.
No doubt in my mind. And I think the other thing that was really encouraging was you saw this team get out in the open floor, and you saw it work. And I think that's what these guys have to realize is that when you have the opportunity to run, if you run, it's going to make everything a lot easier on you. And they need to keep doing it because that was where Caleb Love had the most success. And we knew that about Caleb Love. We knew that he fit this system well because he knew how to run the floor. That wasn't Cole Anthony's game. That was why we were worried a little bit about him coming in, how he would fit the system, but we knew he was just that talented of a player that you had to get him. Caleb Love was different. So I think this is going to be the key going forward. Now, the problem is how do you do that when you have to play Virginia? They don't turn the ball over that often. They're always pretty much a smart basketball team. So that's where you're going to have to try to get a little bit creative. But I think, yeah, you're going to have to you're going to see more of that as the season goes along now, that you're seeing a maturing Caleb Love. So you're going to see this team push the floor a little bit more. And you got to see the same effort from the bigs getting down the floor, from Leaky Black getting down the floor. That's the type of effort that you want to see from these guys for the rest of the year when it comes to pushing the floor and giving them, a chance for easy opportunities at the offensive end, which they need to do. Don't make it tough on you. You're not the greatest half-court offensive team. And guess what? That's all right. I mean, we don't have the shooters. We know that. Your best shooter is a true freshman that most people thought wouldn't even play much of a role this year. They thought he'd probably redshirt, and he's your best shooter by far. So, I mean, make it easy on you. You did tonight, and look at how much success you had.
Yeah. Another thing from this game, Carolina put 6 players in double figures, the first time since they did that against Tennessee Tech back in 2018, 2019.
That's hard to believe, though, with that 18-19 team that later in the year they didn't have anybody that could go through that, because that was a relatively deep team.
That was a deep team that was the best scoring team that we've seen probably since you're going back to those 2011, 2012 teams that you could score 90 in their sleep. That team could score 90 in their sleep. And the way Carolina played tonight, you would have thought coming in they could have scored 90 in their sleep. They shot 53% from the field, 66.7% from behind the three-point line, the 5th highest three-point shooting percentage under Roy Williams since he came back in 2003. Stunning. And the 91 points, as I mentioned, the most they've easily scored in this season. So any last thoughts from tonight's win over Duke?
With the three-pointers, one thing that's really interesting to note, they came in averaging 5 made threes a game. Tonight they made, 10? 10. So they doubled that up. I mean, if you can get even 6 or 7 a game, I feel like that might be enough to get you where you want to go offensively. And yeah, I mean, it's just, again, I think the biggest takeaway from this game is that this is a win over Duke. The amount of things that a win in this rivalry can do for you is, it can't be understated. Like, I feel like a lot of people are going to look at it and say, look, that Duke team now sits at 500. They're probably not a tournament team. But it doesn't matter. You could see after that game ended how much it meant to these players to win this game. They don't give a damn about that record. It doesn't matter. You beat Duke.
It's still Duke, and it's still North Carolina.
If Duke would have won the game, it would have been the same way. It's a rivalry matchup that you put everything that you have into. So when you win, it can pay off big time. We're going to see, because it's a quick turnaround. Carolina's got a quick turnaround against Miami, a team that just went and upset Virginia Tech and is starting to feel themselves a little bit. They're hoping they can continue, and pull another upset. And then you turn around after that and you play Virginia. So we're going to learn how good this team is really quickly. And I think they have a chance to be in a really good position based on what we saw tonight. But it's Can they continue to take the steps forward that we've seen them taking? Clemson might have been a setback. That's fine. That's going to happen when you're growing. But you can't afford another step back like that against Miami or maybe even later on in your slate.
Yeah, the loss to Clemson was a temporary setback. We're leaving tonight's win thinking this was setting up for a major comeback. Also with the win tonight, Carolina snaps a 3-game losing streak to Duke, and they get their 140th win overall in the rivalry, extending their lead in the series to 140-114. Well, that's going to wrap it up.
Also great, one last thing. Didn't play tonight, but great that Sterling Manley is in uniform. A lot of promise. I mean, look, we have to shout that out because this is a guy that we thought on this podcast, seriously, that there was a chance he would not play again at Carolina because that knee injury just wasn't healing right. So great to see that, and we hope to see him on the court.
This is also the same podcast, and me being the host, thought when he came to Carolina and he came into class that had him, Garrison Brooks, and now the transferred Brandon Huffman, he would have been the best big man out of all three. That hasn't turned out to be the case, but if he's going to be on the court, he's going to provide Carolina a lift moving forward. So, as Anthony mentioned, we're glad that we'll have Dykstra on the court sometime soon. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Roy's Boys podcast. Before we let you go, talk about the website, HeelToughBlog.com. Head there now for initial reactions from tonight's win over Duke. I have my recap up on the website, so check out everything that you need to know from tonight's win over the Blue Devils. And, of course, we'll have you ready for Miami and every Tar Heel game moving forward. On the football side of things, we're on the offseason, but you can go back, look at the recap from National Signing Day where Carolina added one more commit into their class. And Anthony has some great NFL draft stuff coming up for you guys. And you can find all that on HeelToughBlog.com. And lastly, we encourage you guys to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. You can find us on every major podcasting platform, Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, TuneIn, Google Podcasts. Give us a like, review me as the host, review Anthony as the co-host. We want you guys to subscribe so we get every podcast in your podcast feed. Well, with that, I want to thank Anthony for sitting up a little late, talking a little Carolina basketball. We thank you guys for listening, and as always, go Tar Heels!